We are done with the chapter on hygiene. We started with flower, no? We already started with flower. Textbook now, इसके पास है. How much did we do in this chapter? We had drawn the diagram. And what else? No talking. You're not looking aware that the class has started already. You are busy with your own life problems. Now let us start with this chapter again. We have already drawn the diagram of the plant. अरे तुम्हारे को ये नहीं आती, ये आती, तुम्हें आती क्या? फिर ज़्यादा आज का तो नहीं हो रहा. आज तो नहीं हो रहा. Okay. The other day you were online, no? You were there online. Now this boy is also not the same. Very boy is not there. Yeah, he's also online. He's also online today. Yeah. Oh, you are there.
I'm Manish का match था ना. अभी आया हुआ.
Okay. Two of them. Anyways, he's absent. This two of them absent. So flower, the other day we had drawn the diagram. The section of the flower we had drawn, no? Did we draw? Section of the flower. And in the section of the flower, what did we learn? We have already learned that the flower has four main parts, which are also known as the four main boards. Four main parts, also known as the four main boards of the flower. So which are the four main boards of the flower we had learned? Calyx, corolla, and rhotium gynoecium. We have also learned the functions. What is the function of the calyx? Protects the bud. Second function also carries out photosynthesis. Next part is petals, corolla. Function of corolla, now what to say? Attracts agents for pollination. Attract agents for pollination. Another function you may write down also later when I give you questions, you should be able to write. Second function for corolla, you may write on that. Second function for corolla protects the reproductive parts of the flower. That also you can write. Petals, corolla, the second function protects the reproductive parts of the flower. Okay, so petals, for petals, I think you must have written down only one function, you can add one more. Protects the reproductive parts of the flower. Protects reproductive parts of the flower. Okay, so whenever you see any flower, you are very much sure that the flower is actually if you talk about any plant, the diagram that I have drawn out, so the petals are always actually enclosing what? The reproductive parts. No? The petals are majorly enclosing the reproductive parts of the plant. Now, next is we talk about the anther or the stamen. What was stamen?
The main reproductive part.
The main reproductive part. What are the parts?
And filament and anther.
Anther and filament. What was the function of the anther we wrote? Function of the anther. Anther produces pollen grains. Anther produces pollen grains. No? And the other day also I told you that the anther is producing the pollen grains. And apart from that, I'll show you. The anther produces pollen grains. What was the function of the filaments? I told you what to remember. Function of the filament, what was it? To support the anther. Function of the filament is to support the anther. So if you see here the parts of the flower again, or any of these flowers, just now we were talking about the petals protecting or enclosing actually the male and the female reproductive part. So anther, function of anther, function of filament, always you are asked in the paper, you should know what are these. Anther kya likhenge? Anther produces pollen grains, the male parts of the flower. And filament supports the anther. Let us talk about the next. What was the last hole? The last hole is gynoecium, also known as the pistil. See here, the carpel or the pistil below. What are the parts of the carpel and the pistil? The stigma, the style, the ovary. The stigma, style, ovary together forms the carpel. What is the other name for the carpel? Pistil. And a bundle of pistil is known as androecium. Now, with reference to this, if we talk about androecium and gynoecium, what are the differences? Androecium I'm talking about and gynoecium I talk about. Just now I said that a bundle of the carpel or pistil is known as androecium. Same way, gynoecium. A bundle of stamen is known as androecium. A bundle of stamen known as androecium. A bundle of carpel or pistil is known as gynoecium. So remember that. Now the carpel and the stamen, the parts already we talked about. Stigma. What is the main function of the stigma to arrive? Receives the pollen grains. The stigma majorly in all flowers are wavy, hairy, sticky. So these are the properties. So that is actually allowing the pollen grains to land and then stack. What is the style? The style is a tube-like structure. Nourishment for the pollen tube to grow. And ovary, the chambers of the ovary known as the ovule is a site of fertilization. So this is what we learned.
Ma'am.
Yes.
Actually, I can't see the screen.
Huh?
I can't see the screen. You are not sharing the screen.
Okay, I'm not sharing the screen. 8 minutes. Okay. Now can you see? No, now you can see only the board, no?
Yes, ma'am.
You can see only the board. Can you see now?
Yes, ma'am. No, I can see it.
So this is what I was sharing. This is what I was sharing that with reference to the flower, with the parts of the flower, this is what we were discussing. Now let us come across complete and incomplete flower. So holes you already know. What are holes? What are the 4 holes? What are their functions? Let us come across these definitions now. Complete and incomplete flower. So for a complete and incomplete flower, let us now look into this flower. This flower that you come across. We'll write down the definitions later. Complete flower. What is a complete flower? A flower which has all the 4 holes. Now in this figure, you get to see all the 4 holes. The sepal, the petal, the stamen, the carpel. All the 4 holes are present. So this is a complete flower. But in case we talk about a flower where there may be only 1 hole present. Now say suppose I may just show you some flowers like, where in this one also, or if I show you some flowers like this, where we may come across, these are some flowers where only one type of a reproductive organ is present. Or if I give you some examples, flowers like the papaya, flowers like the cucumber, flowers like the gourd, water gourd, pumpkin, this type of plants. So if I talk about the gourd plants, if I talk about the papaya plants, if I talk about such type of plants, here what's happening? Only one type of a reproductive organ is present. So can I say that these plant has all the four gourds? No, one gourd is missing. That means in such type of flowers, when I talk about, in type of flowers, when I talk about complete and incomplete. So what is the meaning of incomplete flower? What is the meaning of incomplete flower? In an incomplete flower, one pole is absent. So for incomplete flower, I'm first of all giving you an example. For incomplete flower, let me just talk about an example, something like the papaya. So if I talk about the papaya, in case of the papaya, what's happening? I said it has only one type of a reproductive organ, either the male or the female. So in that case, in every flower, one pole is missing. If that is the case, that is what we are talking about as. If that is the case, that is what we are talking about as incomplete flower. And what is the meaning of the incomplete flower? Incomplete flower is a type of a flower which has one or more poles absent. There are some few flowers again which will not have either of the reproductive organs. Stamen bhi nahi hoga, carpel bhi nahi hoga. That type of a flower is also an incomplete flower. So now what is the difference between complete and incomplete? A flower which has all the four poles, complete. A flower which has one or more poles absent, incomplete. Come to the next one, perfect, imperfect, actually the same thing. Perfect flower, all four poles present. Imperfect, almost the same definition. Now we talk about essential, non-essential. Essential and non-essential part of the flower. What is it? When I talk about essential and non-essential part of the flower, on what basis are we differentiating? Essential part of a flower. Which are the essential parts of the flower? For any flower, ambrotium and gynosium, the carpel and the stamen. So when we are talking about the carpel and the stamen, the male and the female reproductive parts are important parts of the flower. Why? They will be directly engaged in reproduction. Then only the process of seed formation, then only the formation of the new plant. But is it possible for a flower, if calyx is not there, can they undergo the process of fertilization and seed formation? No. Then also there is some other alternative methods. If the petals are not brightly colored and scented, can the process of pollination, fertilization, seed formation happen? Yes, then also that may happen. So we come across plants which are bright colored, scented. We come across plants which are white also. No scent, no fragrance, nothing. But then also, yes, we understand papaya where the flowers are light yellow color, cucumber where the flowers are white color, then also the process of seed formation is happening. The formation of the new plant is happening. And then also we are talking about sunflower and all, we are talking about mustard flowers and all, which are brightly colored. Yes, seed formation is happening there also. So the process of seed formation, fertilization is not only dependent on the bright colors of the petals. If this happens, it's good for a plant. On what basis are we talking about essential, non-essential? Is the part of the flower directly engaged in reproduction? If yes, that is an essential part of the flower. Then which are the parts of the flower directly engaged in reproduction? Stamen, carpel. Which are the parts of the flower which are not directly engaged in reproduction? Calyx and corolla. So if calyx and corolla are not directly engaged in the process of reproduction, then what are we to say? Calyx and corolla are the non-essential parts. Stamen, carpel, essential parts. Perianth. Now this is a little bit tricky to understand. We talk about perianth. What is perianth? In case of this flower, see the petals, see the sepals. Same way, no? But if I talk about this, sepal and petal are the same. No, easily differentiable. Easily differentiable. No, in this flower, the petals are orange color, the sepals are green color. Easily differentiable. Can you give me an example of such type of a flower?
Hibiscus.
Hibiscus, very common. हाँ ये तो viscous है, बहुत smart है वो, इसको देख के viscous बोलते हैं. Now, when I talk about some other type of flower, there are many. When we talk about the roses, when we talk about the marigolds, when we have sunflower, when you talk about the lily. So, when you are talking about such type of flowers, the lotus, when you are talking about this type of flowers, the calyx and the corolla, differentiable, remarkably. Then, are all flowers like that? No, all flowers are not like that. There will be some type of flowers. Sometimes the daisy and the morning glory, where we come across that these type of flowers have got the sepals and the petals same like similar looking. You cannot differentiate between the sepal and the petals. देखो यहाँ पे the white one with the red shade. This is the sepals, and the white one and the red. This is also known as the petals. So together they are known as sepals. Together they are known as sepals. What is the meaning of sepals here? Flower which has sepals and petals undifferentiated. And that is also the same as perianth. Now I wrote perianth. Perianth has got certain subdivisions. So the first subdivision of perianth is sepals. That is when the sepals and petals are undifferentiated. But the sepals and petals are undifferentiated, but they are sepals and petals are undifferentiated. I don't have the sepals and petals are undifferentiated. See again. Sepals and petals are undifferentiated. Sepals and petals are undifferentiated. Sepals and petals are same looking. These are not the sepals. These are the main leaves. Sepals and petals are undifferentiated. Now, let us come to understand this. In all these examples that I showed you, sepals and petals are undifferentiated, but they are non-green. Sepals and petals are undifferentiated, but they are non-green. If that is the condition, you have to name them as petaloid. If that is the condition, you have to name them as petaloid. What I said? Sepals and petals are undifferentiated, but they are not green in color. They may be red, they may be yellow, they may be shades of 2-3 colors. They may be white. In all these cases, the condition of the plant is known as petaloid. But when it is green, something like this. When it is green, sepals and petals both are green. Sepals and petals cannot be differentiated, but they are not brightly colored also. They are green in color. In that case, you will have to term them as sepaloid. So what is the definition? Sepals and petals are undifferentiated and they are green in color. Sepals and petals are undifferentiated, but they are brightly colored or non-green. They will be white also. And so these are the 3 definitions. Now we talk about bract. What is bract? Bougainvillea dekha hai na? Bougainvillea, all of you must have seen. हाँ कि ना? ये देखा है कभी? कभी नहीं देखा? 14 years of your life is a waste. हाँ? नवी मुंबई में रह के ये फ्लावर कभी नहीं देखा? Of course. अभी भी तुम रास्ते में निकलो तो 4 फ्लावर तो मिल ही जाएगा ये बार. It's so common in this region. पूरा मुंबई में this plant is so common. देखा है? Bougainvillea. रास्ते पे जब चलते हो क्या देख के चलते हो? हाँ? रास्ते के कुत्ते या क्या देखते क्या हो? Observation is very bad. So now when you are talking about this, when you are walking on the road, you should look into everything. लोग कैसे जा रहे हैं, कहाँ से कौन सा शॉप है, कौन सा ये है. लोगों को ही देखते हो. बस अरे लोगों को ही देखते हो. नीचे अच्छा, कोई चीज सामने आ जाए तो उसके ऊपर से चले जाओ. Everything, that is observation. सब कुछ देखना है. So somebody if you ask you, what is the landmark of your house? You will normally give 5 landmarks. अगर observation अच्छा है, ये वेदा तो जरूर नहीं दे पाएगा. नाम देखा. 5 landmark बता सकते हो? आप बताओ. जीवी टावर. हाँ. जीता की. हाँ. अभी और वो बुक है. 14 साल के बाद और बुक होगी. So now, this type of a flower that we talk about, Bougainvillea, very common. Now, we are trying to understand. ये जो brightly colored region है, is this the petal? Is this the petal? Brightly colored plant में तो petal ही होता है. Brightly colored region तो petal ही होता है. But in this flower, this is not the petal. This is a modified leaf, and which are available in so many colors. No, it's pink also, red also, yellow also, white also, purple also. So many colors. So this type of a flower that we come across, bougainvillea that we call it as. Here, the brightly colored regions are papery leaf-like structure, modified leaves they are, and the flower is enclosed within. This is the flower. This is the flower. ये है main flower, which is arising from the axial of the leaf. Axial मतलब lower part of the leaf के साथ और lower part of the modified leaf के साथ attached रहता है. And this is the flower. So what is this brightly colored region? This is not the bract. This is not the petal. It is a bract. It is a bract. What is a bract? A modified leaf-like structure which is brightly colored, which encloses the main flower. And the main flower arises from the axial of this leaf-like structure. Axial matlab from the base it remains attached. Arises from the axial of this leaf-like structure. So one of the best examples that I could have shown you is this. The bougainvillea example is the bract. We'll learn examples also. दो तीन examples सीखना है. Now we talk about nectaries. Now ये तो must have come across already. Nectaries पता है क्या है? नेक्टर पता है. तो नेक्टरीज क्या होगा?
मैम वो मैम ड्रॉप ऑफ हनी मैम जो plant flower
में होता है. So there are certain
फ्लावर के ऊपर मैम वो
फ्लावर के ऊपर नहीं होता, वो अंदर होता है. So if you have drawn the flower, say suppose now this is the thalamus that you have drawn and this is the stigma that you have drawn. Nectaries कहाँ पे होगा? Nectaries are basically tube-like structure, something like this. Nectaries are basically tube-like structure, something like this, and then you get the stamen here arranged. So the insects or the butterfly, they are always coming and getting attached to this, and quite a number of times they go down also a little bit, deep down, to take in the juicy substances of the plant cells itself are producing. So what are nectaries? Nectaries are tube-like structures present in the flower, attached to the thalamus itself. This broad region is known as thalamus, no? जहाँ से the male part, female part, and all the calyx, सब attached रहता है. So this particular region is known as the thalamus, and the nectaries also remain attached to the thalamus. And these are nothing but tube-like structures full of nectar. Nectar meaning the sweet secreting watery substance produced by the cells of the flower itself. This is also one big reason why certain flowers would attract pollinating agents.
Only bright flowers are nectar.
Only
Bright flowers are nectar.
not necessarily. Sometimes we talk about jasmine and all. They are not generally bright color. Jasmine and all you will always come across them basically white or light yellow color, no? But they are full of nectar. When you talk about this night queen flowers and all, they are all white, but they are scented and they have got the nectar. So when you are talking about such type of flowers, there are many flowers which are bright colored but may not have nectar, and there are many flowers which are white but they have nectarines. In either of the cases, whenever this honeycomb and all these things artificially has to be set, the apiaries has to be set. Generally, where do they try to set? Commercially, where do they try to set the apiaries? Jahan pe, or even if they set an apiary surrounding, they will always try to plant many flowers which are rich with nectar, or flowers which produce nectar. So that is the concept of growing plants nearby the apiaries. So what we talked about? Nectaries. Now we talk about sexuality in the flower. Sexuality in the flower. This is just simple terms to understand, no concept I am teaching you here. Sexuality of the flower, by the term itself you understand we are talking about what type of reproductive organ the flower possesses. If a flower possesses all types of or both the types of reproductive organ. Then what type of flower are we going to term them as? Bisexual. Also hermaphrodite. So let us talk about these words. Flowers may be unisexual. Flowers may be unisexual. So when I'm talking about flowers may be unisexual, what does that mean? Flowers may be unisexual, meaning flowers may be unisexual, meaning whenever I'm talking about unisexual flowers, as I said, example of unisexual flowers may be the gourd. Example of unisexual flowers may be the papaya. What does this mean? This type of plant have only one type of reproductive organs. But when I talk about bisexual, say suppose now I talk about the hibiscus. I talk about bisexual flower, hibiscus. Hibiscus is one type of a flower which is bisexual. What does that mean? It has got both the calyx and the corolla. Sepals, petals are as it is. So what is bisexual flower also known as? Bisexual flowers are also known as hermaphrodites. Bisexual flowers are also known as hermaphrodites or hermaphroditic flower. So what is the meaning of hermaphrodite? A flower which has both types of reproductive organs. Next is, let us try to understand apart from these terms. Now, when we are talking about unisexual flower, I said what is the meaning of unisexual flower? A flower which has only stamen or carpel. So when I talk about the unisexual nature of the flower, again, we look into the unisexual nature. A flower which has male reproductive organs only can be termed as staminate. A flower which has only male reproductive organs. Staminate flower. What is this? Only stamens present. And when we are talking about pistillate flowers, pistillate flowers, what is the meaning of this? Only pistils present. Only pistils present. Pistils or carpels are the female reproductive organs. So this way you have to remember. There are certain plants only containing the male flower, certain plants only containing the female part of the flower. So unisexual flowers can be of how many types? Two types. Unisexual flowers can be of two types, either male flowers or female flowers. Sometimes we come across that the same plant may have both male and female flowers, and sometimes one plant only male flowers, another plant only female flowers. I may talk about examples like the papaya. I may talk about examples like the pumpkin, like the cucumber. One plant only male flowers, another plant only female flowers. So on the basis of that, when we are talking about plants, on the basis of that, we can talk about two types of plants. What are those two types of plants? Monoecious and dioecious. Monoecious and dioecious plants. So when we are talking about monoecious and dioecious, here we understand that what type of plants they may be possessing. Let us try to understand certain examples. For example, when we are talking about the monoecious plants, let us write one example. As just now I gave you examples of the goat and the pumpkin. Pumpkin. When we are talking about the examples like the monoecious plant, male and female flower on the same plant. What I said? What is a monoecious plant? Male and female flower on the same plant. I am talking about a pumpkin plant. So what will be the condition? This is a flower. This is the flower. This is the male flower. This is the female flower. The male flower should be having what type of reproductive organs? Only stamen. And this is what type of a flower? This or this? This flower is which type of a flower? This or this? This. So I may say the other way. If it is a monoecious plant can have both staminate as well as pistillate flowers. Then what is a dioecious plant? Again, if I talk about a dioecious plant, in case of a dioecious plant, say suppose I talk about examples like, I already told you examples, papaya is unisexual or bisexual? Unisexual. Pumpkin is also unisexual. But what is the difference between these two unisexual plants? In this case, this is a flower, this is a flower, these are all male flowers. Or papaya. This is a plant, this is a flower, this is a flower, these are all female flowers. So in case of papaya, the plant is unisexual, but the plant will either have all male flowers or all female flowers. If that is the case, the plants are known as dioecious. But for pumpkin, for gourd, for cucumber, the story is a bit different. The same plant may have a mixture of male and female flowers. If that is the condition, monoecious, same plant, staminate, pistillate, both present. Okay, so these four terms very, very important for you to remember. Then, since we are talking about sexuality, here we are to understand one type of a flower absolutely different. Neuter flowers. I'm not talking about a neuter plant, remember, I'm talking about a neuter flower. Neuter flower. What is a neuter flower? In case of a neuter flower, what about the carpels? Are the carpels there? No. What about the stamens? Are the stamens there? No. No carpel, no stamen. The flower has only the calyx and the corolla. Then the question is, then how does this plant keep on giving rise to new plant? Because by the process of vegetative parts, by the process of vegetative reproduction, where what is the meaning of vegetative reproduction, vegetative propagation, where a plant can give rise to new plants by the way of its vegetative parts, roots, stems, leaves. There are many such plants which are neuter, no reproductive organs as it is. But they can still give generation of new plants, yes, vegetative propagation. So all these terms associated with the concept of unisexuality or sexuality, bisexual flowers, you already understand mustard hair. Then one very good example of the neuter flower is the sunflower. Sunflower is or the ray florets of sunflower are neuter flowers. Neuter. No. These are neuter flowers. Remember the definition. Mustard, hibiscus, these are all good examples of bisexual flowers. Pea also bisexual flowers. So next is, now we talk about another concept. Now that we are talking about the concept of anther and the androecium and the gynoecium, let us try to understand another concept altogether. So this is what we studied as overall the sexuality. Let us now switch on to some other concepts. Now here to study, first of all, specialized features about calyx, corolla and androecium. So what are some specialized features about the calyx, corolla, androecium that we have to study? Let us study about the calyx first. We study about the calyx first. Calyx of a flower may be of two types. What are the two types? One is gamo. What is the other name for calyx? Other name of calyx? Sepals. On that word. Gamosepalous. Gamosepalous. And what is the other word? Polysepalous. What does this mean? Let me show you some examples, then perhaps you will understand much better. Now, when we are talking about the first term, gamosepalous. What is the meaning of gamosepalous? Gamosepalous means look into the sepals here. These are the sepals, no? These are the sepals. The arrangement of this sepal, I'll show you some. Arrangement of this sepal. These are the sepal. This green part is the sepal. The arrangement of this sepal, and look carefully. The arrangement of this sepal and the arrangement of this sepal. Is it the same? Let me show you here. This one. Is it the same? Is it the same? Is it the same? The arrangement of the sepal. What is sepal? The 5 green leaf-like structures which are present at the base of the flower. 5 green leaf-like structures present at the base of the flower. So first of all, I'm showing you a condition like this hibiscus. Then let me show you a condition this way. अच्छा, यहाँ पे देखो. Arrangement of the sepal. देखा? देखा? The sepals are they all connected or they are all separate? Are they all connected or they are all separate? Connected, है ना? They are all connected. Same is the case when I show you here. Okay? Same is the case when I show you here. So, in a large number of flowers, we get to see the calyx, arrangement of the calyx or arrangement of the sepal is not the same. In some flowers, you will come across when the flower blooms, the calyx, all 5 of them, they get separated and
there are only 5.
Always 5. Always 5, except for some sunflower and bigger flowers. Other than that, in most of the flowers you will find the calyx are always 5. In bigger flowers, there may be multiples of 5. So when we are talking about in all these common flowers, calyx is always 5, always green, and they are always at the base of the flower. And when the flower is bloomed, they separate as 5, 5. They separate as distinct 5 leaf-like structures and spread out at the base of the flower. At the thalamus region, they spread out. If they spread out, and they are separate, we will term them as polysepalous. Poly. So what's the meaning of poly? Sepals are separate. Poly means sepals are separate. Then what about gamosepalous? Gamosepalous means sepals are fused. Sepals are fused. That is gamosepalous. So in most of these conditions, I've been showing you gamosepalous conditions. Quite common we can see. But if I show you examples like if we talk about the marigold and all, no, they are not generally in the form of a tube, spread out basically. So that is about the sepals, the calyx. The second condition let us talk about petals or corolla. Petals or corolla, and here we were talking about calyx or sepal. So this we learn first. Now we talk about the second point. Same here. What about the petals? Are they in the form of a tube? The petals are in the form of a tube. The petals are in the form of a tube. The petals, we should say that the petals are all fused together. The petals are all fused. Now, is this the same? Is this the same? No, petals are all spread out. So if the petals are spread out, polypetalous. So now, based on this condition, we understand two. What is it? One is gamopetalous. Then what should the word be? Gamopetalous क्या होना चाहिए? Petals fused होना चाहिए कि free होना चाहिए? Separate होना चाहिए. Gamo meaning fused petals. And poly, when we say polypetalous. Polypetalous means they are free. Petals are free. So here we talk about two prominent examples. Some common examples like the Dhatura flowers. Big flowers they are, completely in the form of a tube. Small petunia flowers, morning glory flowers, in the form of small tubes, but the petals are all connected to form a tube. But China rose, marigold, petals are all separate. Petals are all separate. Jasmine, petals are all separate. So if that is the word, so first two types of birds we had learned. One is gamocephalus, gamopetalous. Polysepalous, polypetalous. Okay. So from the word you should understand. This means fused and this means free. What next? Here, with reference to the stamen, absolutely different, you're going to learn something. When we are talking about the stamen, you already know that the stamen has got two main parts. So with reference to the stamen, which has got parts like the anther and the filament, Here we are trying to understand that how are the anther and the filaments arranged? How do they arrange themselves in the plant? Based on that, they may be termed as monogelphus, or they may be termed as diagelphus. They may be termed as diagelphus, or they may be termed as polygelphus. They may be termed as polygelphus. Let us learn with examples. The first one is monogelphus. Let us see how does it look. Now, what are we trying to understand is how are the filaments actually arranged? Are they arranged in one bundle, two bundles, many bundles? How exactly? So in this case, if I talk about the monodelphous situation, let us see here. For the monodelphous situation, this is China rose. No? In China rose, it always come across the filaments are all bundled together. Now, say suppose I talk about the thalamus region. In the thalamus region, we always come across that the main reproductive part is in the center, and all the, or if I talk about the main reproductive part coming out from the center, you will come across that they generally form one bundle, and then the anthers are here, and then the anthers are here, then the anthers are here, then the anthers are here. So what is this? This is the bundle of filament. This is the bundle of the filament. This is the bundle of the filament that we are talking about. If the filaments are all bundled together, and then the anthers are free. Anthers are free. We are not talking about anthers fused. Anthers are never fused. It is the filaments which are bundled together. If the filaments are bundled together, resulting in the formation of a cluster of anthers. And in between there will be the stigma. The stigma is always at the center, the central region, that is the ovary style stigma, is always in the center. But here, all filaments clubbed together, forming one bundle. That is the condition. Monogelphus. Mono means one. Then, how should diadelphus look like? In case of diadelphus, what will be the situation? Again, we talk about the thalamus. And in this case, if I'm talking about the diadelphus, in this case, if this is the thalamus, then one filament will be something like this fabric, and then the rest will all bundle up this way. The rest will all bundle up this way, and then the anthers here. Majorly, they have a 9+1 arrangement. Majorly, they have a 9+1 arrangement. 9 of them bundled together and one free. So how many bundles of filaments here? 2. Hence the word diadelphus, 2. But where do we generally come across this type of arrangements? The pea, the gram, the lentils, the pulses. Very common examples to remember. The pea. What about this? There may be many bundles. I talk about the thalamus region, and in case of the thalamus region, there may be one bundle this way, anther. There may be another bundle this way, so many anther here. There may be another bundle this way, so many anther here. 3, 4, or even more. If that is so, that is what we are talking about as polydelphus. There are so many bundles are there. This is one, this is one, this is one, this is one, this is so many of them bundled together. The filaments are all bundled up in 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 30, bundles. If that is the one, then what are we talking about? This is called polydelphus. Generally in those mulberry flowers, Bombex, mulberry flowers. So when we are talking about this, this is what we are talking about as polydelphus in the Bombex, didelphus of the pea, monodelphus in the hibiscus. Majorly, one example of Pulsarilla. What are we learning in all this? We are trying to learn in all this that when we come across the arrangement of filaments in the anther, how they should look like. The filaments of the anther would generally look like this. With one examples. The last is we try to understand the main arrangements of The gynoecium. The gynoecium is what? The female part of the flower. Gynoecium is the female part of the flower. What are the parts? The parts are the style, stigma, ovary. So already we have come across this. So it should have a swollen base and then the stigma this way, and this is the ovary which have got chambers, and the chambers are known as what? Ovules. The chambers are known as the ovules. Some of the important things to remember, you already know about the stigma, the function, one function already I heard. One function of the stigma already you know. One function of the style already you know. That is enough for you now. When we are talking about the ovary, you should also remember, ovary is the site for fertilization. Actually, the process of fertilization happens inside the ovary, that is in the ovule. The chambers of the ovary, that is in the ovule. Because if I now talk about the pollen which is sitting here, and then we give rise to the pollen chamber, the process of fertilization starts. We will start in the next chapter. So this way we have to understand the parts of the female region of the flower. But here, when we are talking about that, as this part results in the formation of a embryo and then a seed after fertilization, then how would this structure look like? This entire structure results in the formation of a multicellular structure, something like this. After fertilization, then this is no more the ovule. I should say this is the embryo or the forming seed. But from the there are various layers and walls, and then some specialized tissues will be connecting the ovary wall with this embryo. Why? To supply nourishment. To supply nourishment. What is this tissue known as which supplies nourishment from the ovary wall? This is known as the placenta. What is placenta? The tissues, now that may be arranged differently, either from here, either from here, either from anywhere. So these tissues which remain connected between the forming seed or the embryo and the embryo, the ovary wall, which takes nourishment from the wall of the ovary for the process of formation of the entire seed, that is what is called the placenta. Now, there's one more definition that you have to study here, and that is inflorescence. What is inflorescence? So we have been already talking about placenta, placentation. With reference, we now talk about inflorescence. What is inflorescence? Arrangement of the flower in the flower twig. ये है stem. This is one stem. In certain flowers you will come across. In certain plants you will come across. Say suppose if this is the plant, from one region the flower starts. Here is the flower. 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 There are certain type of flowers that we also get to see where there are flocks of flowers, bunches of flowers, red, orange, and the flowers are something like they all originate from one region of the tree, but the flowers are all at the top, forming a bunch. You must have seen such type of flowers. So this is one type of an arrangement. Then what is the other type of an arrangement? The other type of an arrangement is here is the flower, here is the flower, here is the flower, here is the flower, here is the flower. This is more common. This is more common an arrangement of the flower that we get to see. So what are we trying to understand? There are many more. I'm talking about just two. What is there in your syllabus? What is this? We are talking about the arrangement of the flowers on the flower twig. This is the twig, the branches, fine branches where the flowers develop. Arrangement of flowers on the flower twig is called inflorescence. Arrangement of the flowers on the flower twig is called inflorescence. Inflorescence. Now, majorly there are two types of inflorescence. Here, I think only 2-3 types only are given here. 2 types are basically given here. So, when we are talking about the 2 major types of inflorescence, this type of inflorescence can be called as racemose, and this type of inflorescence can be called as cymose. Racemose and cymose types of inflorescence. What are we trying to understand? If it is this type, where we come across the twig, the stalk arises from one part of the stem and comes all on the top. And if this is so, then alternately the flowers develop. So in this chapter, there is nothing very difficult that you have to remember, understand, but you have to remember a number of words and the difference. Let us try this exercise. Try this exercise if you are able to answer. Chalo fatafat karo. This multiple choice and number E. No, number B you do first. Multiple choice, number B karo with a pencil. Multiple choice, first you do. And then after that you move on to B. After that you move on to B. And then you move on to E, number 1, number 2. See if you have understood and if you are able to solve this question. Start. Fatafat karo. What takes more? We share with them. Number 1 I said, no?
A, B और E का first
1 and 2.
two का A is what is complex?
A type of a flower, I showed you here, a type of a flower which has polydelphous stamens. The next class will move on to the next chapter, pollination, fertilization. But before that, are you done with this chapter? The previous chapter issues already done? Test? Already over?
Yes, not yet.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. Then yes.
Sunday?
Next Sunday.
Next Sunday. So I'll first of all give you a short 10-mark test on tissues. So 1 week time full hai. Read. Any confusion, any doubts, clarify. A short 10-mark test on tissues, animal and plants both. Okay, just basic conceptual test. And then I'll start with the next chapter, that is pollination fertilization. ठीक है?
Pollination हमारा पूरा नहीं होगा,
पूरा नहीं आएगा। हाँ।
मतलब उसका कौन सा होगा अपने?
When is exam? 11 July। 1 week तो है। तो 1 week में क्या करना है? Revision करना है।
ना after 1 July में week का 1 week revision ना। 1 July में कितना होगा pollination? और आप सारा complete ही नहीं होगा।
अरे बाप रे, एक हफ्ता पूरा रिवीजन कराते हैं तुम लोग को।
4 लेक्चर होते हैं।
हम तो छोड़े को का सेव
हम जानते हैं कैसे होगा क्या है 734
नहीं हम 7 को ओवर है 3 को दोनों ओवर यूज कर रहे हैं।
हां मैम 3 को दोनों भी सही हो
3 है 3 and 4 नहीं 3 is over no 4 is
आप लेकिन 7 ओवर होना चाहिए ना तो पूरा ओवर जाता है
तो पहले से
जब 4 वाला
इसलिए मैं बोल रहा था उधर वाले
4 को कुछ और था
तो अच्छा हो गया
Three होगा ovule, हाँ. 4 will be placenta because placenta they are talking about the inner tissues which are also connected to the ovary wall. So 4 will be placenta, 3 will be ovule, and 7 is ovule.
4 will be placenta
4 is placenta. 4 is in the middle. Neva, no, his name is Neva. Neva, are you able to solve the questions? Very basic.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool. Keep solving. You don't know which questions I asked you to do? Which one? This chapter is one of the simplest chapter. ये है कि almost about 10 good definitions and some differences. Only that much. This chapter. There's nothing to understand as such. कोई process नहीं है, कोई mechanism नहीं है. What it is? It is petals, right?
How it is better
होगा
What is it?
I'm actually they are separate
diagrams only wrong
Number 10 is thalamus. Number 9 is sepals and 8 is sepals. And number
separate
8 is petals.
yeah
8 is the taller one. No, 8 is the taller one. 8 is petals and 9 is the smaller one. 9 is sepals. That's the taller one. The taller part is petals. Read this chapter as I told you. Tissues, work it out. Next class I'll take a short 10 minutes with 10 mark a test, and then we'll move on to the next chapter.
अपने आप ही तो भाई क्लासेस
पूरा कितने क्या क्या क्या
परीक्षा ना क्लास में